Hey everybody, it's Melissa, the unlikely hiker. A little unlikely today, just sprained my ankle. So with that being said, I hope everyone is doing good. Sorry for the little delay in videos, but it has been quite the ski season. I was out 3, sometimes 4 days a week skiing, and it was exhausting. So I didn't really have too much time for anything else this winter between all of the events that happened. But there was a piece of gear that I was looking to get that I finally did order. I do have an upcoming trip, actually a couple trips planned for this summer. I'll tell you about those later, but this is in regards to my stove system. Now, I've been a long time BRS user, and I'm a big fan of the stove in the little pot. It's a tiny footprint, it gets the water boiled, but it has failed me a couple times. Once, the BRS stove itself just failed, not really sure why. I think it had something to do with the little O-ring that was on it, but I bought a new one, works fine. But I've actually burned through an entire canister of gas in one weekend before, and that really bothered me. Then I had to use my friend's stove. So I was looking for something more fuel efficient. I've been a long time owner of the Jetboil. This is probably about 7 years old, and it works just as good as the day I got it. It's relatively lightweight. I'll put the weights on the screen. But I was looking for something that was going to perform a little bit better than the Jetboil in cold winter conditions. So that brought me to the MSR Windburner. Now this is even a little bit heavier than the Jetboil, but it's more fuel efficient, works great in the wind, and it works better in the very cold temperatures of upstate New York, which was an important factor for me. The Jetboil just never seemed to really work. I don't know how some people do it. I know you can put the canister in some water to stop the outside from freezing up, but honestly, just never worked for me. I use a liquid canister stove when I am winter backpacking because you can't have a failure with your stove system while you're backpacking in temperatures, negative 10, 20 degrees and wind chills, maybe even colder than that. So I definitely was very excited to pick this stove up. I've been eyeing this stove for a couple years. It is expensive, but if it lasts a while, it might be worth it. It is about 5 ounces heavier than the Jetboil, but I've been using this a little bit while I was skiing, and right off the bat, there was definitely some things that I prefer about this than the Jetboil. Starting from top down, the lid fits a lot tighter. That's like a safety issue for me. I sometimes knock things over, and I like the way the lid snaps on. The stove is a radiant burner. It's got a little wire in there so you can see when it's burning during the day. That's pretty cool. This thing is as robust as they come. And the flame is completely enclosed, so wind is not a factor. It's not going to affect the stove at all, which is fantastic. Everything else about the stove is pretty much similar to the Jetboil with the handle and the insulation on the outside. So the other thing I really like about this is the size of the cup. You've got gradient markers on here. It can be used to measure water, but it's a little bit sturdier and taller than the one on the Jetboil. As you can see, that's a pretty big difference. This one just never felt right, like drinking out of it. Eating oatmeal was fine. This is just a little bit more robust. And here you can see the burners. Those are completely different. So this has more exposure to the wind, and this does not. Neither of these have a piezo igniter. Not a big deal for me. I just use a lighter instead. So anyway, that's it. I got one of my new pieces of gear that I wanted for this year, started trying it out. I'm definitely impressed with the boil times for sure. We'll see how I feel about carrying something that is a little bit bigger than my Jetboil and about 5 ounces heavier. So my theory behind getting the Windburner was to use it in colder temperatures and also to have a stove that's more fuel efficient, allowing me to carry less fuel, which depending on the length of the trip, it may or may not make a difference since I'm bringing a whole canister. But I don't know, we're gonna try it because I was super interested in it, and I have an upcoming trip to Colorado. Originally I was gonna hike the Collegiate Peak Loop in its entirety, but I had a friend that was headed out that way to hike the Collegiate West, and I'm just gonna tag along with her, and I'm gonna take a second trip instead. So I'm looking forward to that. That should be so much fun. It has been such a long time since I've been out there, about 3 years, and I am really looking forward to it. A long time ago, I decided to shave everything I could out of my pack to get my base weight as light as possible, and I realized I didn't really like that, so I started adding things back in that made my life on the trail a little bit more comfortable, and we're gonna see where this fits into the equation. So I'm definitely excited to give it a try and test it out more out on an actual trail, not just on the top of a mountain while I'm skiing. So anyway, that's what I got for you today. Just a little bit of an update. I hope everyone's starting to get out. I hope you're enjoying your life. Get out there and hike something. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.